Welcome to our Zoom, where we smile together. Unfortunately, it looks like my internet is being unstable. I just got the warning that my internet is unstable. So, Mallory, if you're willing to take over, if that's the case and that I'm not able to continue, that would be great. In fact, just in case, I'll give you right now the ability to share your screen. So, all right. And speaking of sharing screens, I will get mine going. Oh, I forgot to get the presentation part ready, but I think I can do that right now. And we can get our smile gathering started. So, hello and welcome. And every mom needs to smile more. And that's what Mom of Eight's goal is to provide these 5 elements of progress, ways that we can all move forward in our mothering and feel a little more comfortable, confident maybe. So we offer a chance for us to get support is what the S is. And then we share some fun things like music and inspiration and laughter. And then we kind of wrap it up with some good solid education in one of the raise up areas. So that is what we'll work on tonight. And I do want to start off by letting those attending to rename yourself. This gives you a little bit of instruction about how to do that. Find where you're listed in the participants, and when you kind of hover over it, it'll give you a chance to rename yourself. And what we want to see is your first name plus the ages of your children, and then maybe a keyword like the example I'm giving is scrapbooking, or I've seen moms in the past put things like outdoorsy, or doula. I did that for myself once because I have had that opportunity to be a doula. So just whatever you feel like will give people a little clue into your personality. That would be great. All right. And now we're going to go ahead and, oh, you know what we didn't do yet was a chance to, oops, I'm going the wrong direction with my slides. It's a chance to just kind of connect with each other physically. So I'm going to stop sharing so that we can do this. It's a little way to, we do a little physical exercise. It's almost like yoga. And it gives us a chance to like focus in on what we're doing here. So if everybody will please take a minute to take a deep breath and spread your arms out while you're breathing in. And then as you breathe out and you bring your arms in, you can give yourself a hug. You deserve it, mama. Hopefully you're getting lots of hugs from your kiddos, but sometimes we just need to hug ourselves too. Let's go ahead and take another deep breath. And this time, as we breathe in, we're going to gather all the goodness that exists out there in the world. Sometimes we get so focused on the negative things. Like I was just reading the news and I just thought, heavens, why are people killing each other? And why can't governments get along with each other? And what is going on? So instead of focusing on all that negativity, I'm going to purposely breathe in goodness. And so here we go, deep breath. All right, and then as I breathe out, I'm going to be spreading goodness out there and realizing that I am a force for good and that I can have an influence and an impact. You know, on our Mama Festo, we say something like, to the world, I am only one person, but to my children, I am their world. And so even if we think our sphere of influence is just our children, if every mother felt that way and chose to exercise that influence the best she can to spread those good things, then we'll be making a difference. All right. We also want to take a minute to take another deep breath, of course. The deep breaths are so cleansing. And we're going to look up, kind of stretch our necks. And looking up is a physical reminder that there is a higher power. And some of us call that higher power God or our Heavenly Father. Some of us might just call it the universe, but realizing that there are forces beyond us that we can use for our well-being and for our children. Okay, and now we're going to look at one another and say, and wave hello at each other and take a minute to look if there's more people on the Zoom, then take a minute to look and see what the ages are of their kids, and if they have a little, like, what's the word, synonym about themselves or explanatory word there that catches your eye. And just be willing to send good thoughts out. All right, so that little descriptive word that might help us to connect with each other, and just realizing too that each of us has a life beyond what we're able to see, and realizing that is a complex life. It has wonderful talents and skills that we've developed over the years. It has struggles and unseen difficulties and challenges, and that we all just need to be sending out beautiful vibes of grace to each other and conscientiously loving each other. So that is our little start off here at our Smile Gathering. And from that, it feels comfortable, I think, to move into the support segment. And so I will go back to sharing my screen. I'm getting the warning again that my internet is unstable. So just being on alert for that. So we just want to remind everyone that your feelings are real and valid, and that here in a mom unity, we pledge to be judgment-free. We are very mom passionate, play on the word compassionate, and this is a safe place. And many of us have been through similar struggles and trials, and we want to be able to share what helped. In some ways, we might not have the exact situation behind us, but we are willing to walk with you through it. And we offer that opportunity for you to seek support, and want to thank you ahead of time for being vulnerable and opening up. And we'll put to work the acronym that we use to help us steer through motherhood. So Mallory, as our lone attendee at the moment, do you want to bring up something that we can work through with you?
Sure. Great. This is actually something I witnessed as a nanny that I thought was a very interesting dynamic. The couple I babysat for, they were both, oh, sorry, my music session is playing for later on. Okay. They were both police officers. And so the husband, he worked in the evening, and the mom took care of the kids for the evening hours, and then the wife, she worked during the day, so the husband took care of the kids during the day, but they were never home at the same time. And the days that she had off, he worked, and the days that he had off, she worked, so they couldn't accommodate for the kids. And so they were never really together except for maybe like an hour overlap. And so I got to witness that interactions and the quick catch up of like, hey, this is going on today. So-and-so's kind of in a mood, you know, this is what we did. And they were just never together. And that was just how their life was, you know, and they just had to make it work. And it was just a really interesting dynamic. And I'm sure other people have to endure the same thing just to, you know, make their living and get the money they need. And yeah, it was just hard to witness. And I can't imagine how they, you know, built their family when they were never together as a family.
How many children?
They had 2 children. The oldest was autistic, and then the youngest was 2.
Wow. So that adds some more dynamics to the situation. If one of them has,
yes, there was a lot going on in general, which hence the nanny, right?
Right. Yeah. And so you, in general, what was your role as the nanny?
To pick up wherever the last person left off, whether that was like the grandma helped a lot, or I would go get the kids from school, I'd make them dinner, I'd get them ready for bed, I'd put them to bed. Sometimes I'd stay over, sometimes I'd meet them in the morning and get them ready for school. It was really, sometimes they just wanted a date night. The one time it came around that I was there, they were like, can you come over so we can leave? And I was like, yeah. I don't blame you.
Right. Yeah. That's good that was on their radar to try to fit in a date night when possible, because you would think they would just be so exhausted.
Right. Oh, and they were totally exhausted, but I did admire their efforts.
Yeah, and particularly their profession seems like one that would be sometimes stressful, of having to interact with people the way that we see police. At least we have a vision, right, of what police work is. And it's contentious sometimes, you know, trying to convince somebody that they did something wrong and that they have to fix it.
Right.
Things like that. Right. So that does seem like a lot of stress for them to be balancing and wanting their family to keep moving forward in the midst of all of that. And so, yeah, we could talk through it. Like you said, this is something that you witnessed, so it's harder to know exactly what some of the thoughts and emotions were, but maybe you could surmise that as you saw their interactions, or maybe too, it's helpful even just to kind of put ourselves in their shoes and think through what would be some of the thoughts, what would be some of the emotions that come from this kind of thing. So
right.
We have a little like a worksheet sort of that we can work through here as we try to, it's a practice and something that you have to do over and over to really gain what it could do for us. So I'm trying to get my annotation button to work. There it is. And we're gonna come up here and type up the situation. I would put it as a lack of time that they get to interact with each other. One of our like curriculum tools here at Mom of 8 is a set of principles that describe what is necessary for good relationships, and time is one of those things. It's really hard to have a relationship with someone that you don't spend a lot of time with. Of course, there's other ways to invest in the well-being of the relationship, like I think I witnessed that sort of thing when my sister-in-law's husband was deployed. And so amidst that deployment, she worked hard to try to still reach out and have a relationship the best that she could. But that's definitely part of what this situation would entail. Is there other things that you would include in describing this situation?
Maybe like a lack of coherency, because I noticed when I got to see, you know, one parent doing the parenting, it wasn't consistent as you would expect it not to be, right? Because they don't have the time together to establish that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so we can even say that due to lack of time to establish it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think, again, that the more conscientious someone can be about those dynamics of a situation, then they can address it more effectively. But as it stands, what would be some of the thoughts that we might have, or in this case, we're kind of thinking for these people, right? Mm-hmm. Of what kinds of thoughts might be going around in their minds.
The situation was kind of unique because they brought me on because the mom had just started the police academy, and that was like her dream job. Like she was done having kids, and this was her dream job. And so they were all very optimistic about it because she was getting to do something that she had wanted to do for a very long time. And, you know, her husband was very supportive of that. And the children tried to understand to the extent that they could.
Nice.
So everything was really positive, which was really nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
And that is going to be part of what helps smooth out some of the bumpiness of such a situation.
Mm-hmm. And they just kind of, you know, took it for what it was. You know, this is just how it has to be right now. And but they did express that they were hoping that would wrap up soon, right? So it wasn't a long period of time, but
and but she was going to the police academy so that she could continue along the path of full-time employment outside the home and things like that. Mm-hmm. So that it was definitely, even though they were kind of gearing up in terms of, okay, it's just short term, we can handle anything for the short term, it was actually lending itself to becoming long term. Well, most likely
in a different dynamic, but yes. Yeah.
So but that's really cool to hear that they were able to have that positivity from the get-go. And
mm-hmm. I think they would at least tell me that they were positive about it, though I know that they had frustrations when they would finally come together. You know, you could see the like another adult, my person.
Oh, that's kind of cool too, though, that you got to witness that. As you said, when one of them had been with the kids all day and the other one would come home and they would make sure they exchanged notes. At least mm-hmm. That's what I understood you'd say before. And the one would be relieved. It's a kind of tag team type of parenting style, huh?
Yeah, it was.
I think we can put that down here in the engagement part. The tag team effect, the bringing on other help like grandma or the nanny. Mm-hmm. But that was definitely them being proactive in finding solutions. And I think that's really wise, actually, to be able to see it as outside of yourself. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be that you personally have all of the solutions, but that you can reach out and get help from other people like grandma or the nanny. And that, that's really wise. And it requires an essence of humility, you know, to admit that I can't do it on myself. And yet that isn't a bad thing. I think sometimes humility gets a bad rap. People don't always want to be humble enough to admit that, but that can be one of the essential ways to engage. You know, it can be one of the actions that you take to successfully steer through the situation. So, and you mentioned that you did notice sometimes they would have a little bit of the frustration, other emotions.
I think they were just generally quicker to anger than I think they would be otherwise, just because the nature of their jobs is so heavy. And then, you know, having to come home and like care for your family alone. Yeah. And there was always unique things going on with their son due to his mental health. And so everything was a lot. There was no downtime. It was like the home was a lot and it was a lot. Though they enjoyed both, it's just a constant, you know, emotions were always high in both those situations. So I could tell that they were just always on alert and like trying to suppress everything quickly.
Yeah, not necessarily having the time. Again, that might be the main situation, and not having that time to process the emotions effectively, and just kind of being consistently in survival mode can be really hard. That's rough. That's a hard situation to be in. I think that some of the biggest lessons to be learned come from what we all just experienced over this past year with the pandemic, and how you really can shut down the world if you have to. When things are that intense, and they really do require a necessity of just a very alternative option. You know, I think that we live in a age frame when sometimes there's too many options, and it's not necessarily good for us to take advantage of all of those options. So this family, as they're trying to bring in a whole new idea of, oh, police academy, this will be great, you know, and they're doing their best to make it all work and to reach out and get help, and but that there's definitely some repercussions. And I think that it's a matter of humility to just admit the fact that even with taking precautions like getting help and things like that, that there's just plain going to be that's the way things are if you don't change the situation, if you don't, you know, but it is, I think they have going for them that optimism and those, in general, those good thoughts going out. And of course, as the onlookers, so to speak, you as the nanny, or maybe the grandma and her onlooking, you do hope the best for them, but sometimes you do want to be able to say, you know what, you just need to rearrange some things, maybe, you know, so that they you can get I don't know, different results. And that is what it all comes down to, is what are the results, and is it going to just lead to demanding more and more and more out of ourselves, or are we going to have that capability to shut down what we can, like the pandemic did, you know? I mean, even Disneyland shut down. The NBA, for heaven's sakes. So yeah, I hope the best for this family, and would be interested to know how things work out for them in the long term. So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and clear all of that as we move along to our music element. Oops. Let's see, now I have to figure out how to do that. Okay, so Mallory is planning to share some music with us today. This is under the belief that we need music in our lives, and being conscientious about choosing what kind of music is worth our efforts. So it's yours now, Mallory.
I don't believe I can share my screen until you stop sharing yours, it says.
Okay, I will stop. There we go.
Oh, there we go. Okay, this is just kind of a fun parody on mothering that I found, but I also think it has a good message behind it.
Sippy cups and little bodies everywhere. Hands in the air like we don't care. Cause we already having so much fun now. So we're gonna have another one now. We already got a full home. We can make room for one more.
You know what, Mallory?
Cause we already up all night till we see the sunlight. Oh,
I'm not sure why.
Let me try that one more time, I guess. Is that better?
It's still a black screen to me. Is it supposed to be showing something else?
Yeah. Still?
Oh, I saw some words up at the top. We can't stop pregnancy announce.
Oh. Because, yeah, I could see the screen.
You see it, but I don't.
Maybe I'll try.
Do you think it has to do again with me sharing my screen the wrong way or something? I don't know. Mine says that I'm not sharing.
Refresh it and see if that makes a difference.
Oh, wait. So these kinds of technological little hiccups happen, and we can blame it on Zoom, but the fact is, even in real life, sometimes there's miscommunications or things like that. And so just choosing to be patient.
How about now?
Just looks like a black screen. I wonder if you want to send me the link, and
I could do that.
Okay. It's interesting because it blinks and shows what my screen used to be. So that's why I thought maybe I didn't disconnect properly or something. But...
Okay, I emailed you the link.
All right.
You know what? When I push share screen, it doesn't show me the picture of the screen I'm sharing. I think because that's not appearing, it might have something to do with that. That makes sense.
Okay. All right, well, I have the link up now. So I will go back in to the Zoom. And
you could probably skip ahead like 25 seconds.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of intro in this.
Okay. Here we go. So you said about 25 seconds?
Yeah, or so, yeah.
I'm trying to tell by the pictures. Here we go.
We can love who we want, we can kiss who we want, we can make who we want.
sippy cups and little bodies everywhere.
Oh, it's like slowed down.
Cause we already having so much fun now. So we're gonna have another one now. We already got a full home. We can make room for one more. Cause we already up all night till we see the sunlight. Alright. So la-da-dee-da-dee. We like our babies dancing with Judy, doing whatever we want. This is our house, this is our rules, and we can't stop, and we won't stop. Can't you see it's we who'll be up all night? Can't you see it's we who love this life, and we can't stop, and we won't stop. We run them, they don't run we, so we're having one more baby, yeah. To my homegirls here with the big bomb, growing it over and over again. Remember, only God can judge ya. Forget the haters, cause your kids, they love ya. And everyone is all up in the bathroom when I need some time in the bathroom. But we're having one more kid now, one more kid, yeah, 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 yeah. So la-da-dee-da-dee, we like to party, dance with H&E, doing whatever we want. This is our house, this is our rules, we can't stop, and we won't stop. Can't you see it's we who'll be up all night? Can't you see it's we who love this life, and we can't stop, and we won't stop. We run them, they don't run we, so we're having one more baby, yeah, It's our family, we can do what we want to. It's our house, we can make who we want to. It's our song, we can sing if we want to. It's my body, I can grow who I want to. Yeah, 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 yeah. And we can't stop, and we won't stop. Can't you see it's we who'll be up all night? Can't you see it's we who love this life, and we can't stop, and we won't stop. We run them, they don't run we, so we're having one more baby, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Woohoo! That's fun.
Isn't it? And it's funny, but there's a lot of good messages behind it.
There really are, yeah. About I love the one about we run them, they don't run we.
Right. And the kind of whole, it's my house, we do what we want. And
Yep.
if you don't
If
like
I want
it,
to have another baby, it's not really your place to make your comments about how many babies I'm having.
right.
I probably am not even able to appreciate it fully because I don't know the Miley Cyrus song that it's based on, but sometimes when you know what the parody is based on, you can appreciate it more. But that is fun. So I'm going to share my screen again because I'm in charge of the inspiration portion, and it just so happens to be Diana's birthday. So I am going to, I'm going to share about Diana. Diana is the secretary for us here at Mom of 8, and she is currently a single mom. She is unfortunately single through the death of her husband. So I'm going to read her little bio here. Diana thought she put the mom in mommy. Of course, that was before she became a mommy. Oh, wow, did that reality slip hard. For marrying the perfect man, her soulmate and best friend, her young head was filled with visions of a picturesque life, and then one of life's twists left her widow, 9 months pregnant with their 4th child. In shock, fighting postpartum depression and PTSD, there were days she couldn't even get out of bed. And yet she kept holding on. She found herself wrapped in her Savior's love, putting one foot in front of the other, and she slowly found a semblance of solid ground. It was a journey, but she was able to remember who she was and how she wanted her life to be. She is a daughter of God, and it is her birthright to share her Savior's light. She's now an advocate for mental health awareness and recovery awareness, and she participates in homeless outreach. She's served in both the women's and the children's organizations at her church, and she serves here at Mom of 8. And she's a living example that you can go through the refiner's fire. And no matter how hard and no matter the pain, as long as you keep moving, you can achieve anything. Diana believes in humanity and that there is good in everyone. She doesn't care what happened yesterday. It matters where you go from here today. She'll find any reason to celebrate. She loves to laugh, to swim, to sing, taking pictures, doing crafts with her 4 beautiful children. Her favorite color is Tiffany's blue, turquoise, and pink. She loves glitter, getting creative, and riding on her very own Harley Davidson. One of the most outstanding things about Diana is that she loves. It's as simple as that. She loves. So I'm very grateful for Diana and the work that she does here at Mom of 8 as our secretary. And in the midst of her own difficulties, that's what she chooses to do, is to reach out and bless the lives of other people and share light. And I just wanted to inspire other people with that. So the other part of our smile gathering is the L, which is for laughter. And I'm actually going to share that too out of this book, Humor for a Woman's Heart. This is, you know your kids are growing up when some wise soul said, the days with preschoolers drag by, but the years fly by. Boy, how they have flown by. My husband and I know our sons are growing up because we haven't been to the emergency room for 4 months. Our boys say please and thank you without being reminded, and they almost always flush. We can take a shower in privacy from beginning to end with our sons in the house awake. They remind us when it's time to pray. They want to hear stories about when they were little. I think that's a cute one when my little one says something like that. Tell me a story about when I was a baby. And she's just 3. So they can keep a secret when daddy probes. What did you get me for my birthday? We can schedule family portraits to be taken without having to work around the facial scabs our boys used to regularly inflict on one another. Calling each other dummy head has, for the time being, replaced the clawing exercises. Oh, did I? Sorry, the Zoom kicked me off for a minute. Okay, so they wait for a pause in our conversations before interjecting some salient point, like, Mom, do spiders have 6 or 8 legs? Their night light burned out and they haven't asked for a replacement. They telephone their friends and do more than just breathe into the phone. We find little notes in boys' handwriting that says, God loves you. And we hear them singing Jesus songs from the next room. We realize that our work is not yet done, but by God's grace, much has already been accomplished. And all we can do is sit back and marvel. So I think that is true. There are some parts of motherhood that get left behind once they get a little more mature, a little older. And you start to wonder, should I miss that? Like, or should I be relieved that it's moved beyond? All right. Well, here at the beginning, as we're just getting these smile gatherings established, we are kind of giving little insights into what our educational curriculum is set up like. So I'm going into our drive here, and we're just going to take a peek at the income and outgo portion of our curriculum. So what we've done here with Motivate is we've tried to answer the question, what do moms do? Like, what is it about motherhood that is beyond the nitty gritty household chores that aren't real pleasant? And anybody else can do those things. So why am I important as a mom? And why do I need to take time to be a mom? And the R, so we say moms raise up society. The R is for relationships. A is for atmosphere, which we talked about last week. I is for income and outgo. So that's what we're going to talk about this week. And then the S is for schedules and systems. And the E is for energy. It's no wonder I forgot that one, because I just have no energy most of the time. Energy comes from how we eat, how we sleep, how we exercise. And of course, those all sound like physical things, but they really actually contribute to our mental well-being if we're conscientious and doing some of it right anyways. And so here in the income and outgo, what we've done is come up with some key principles that will lead to success in our monetary dealings. The way that life is set up and the way that finances are set up is that you could just make a big long list of do's and don'ts. You could say, oh, don't ever eat out at a fast food restaurant, and don't ever spend your money on such and such, but the fact is it's much more, like those lists would become very long, very tedious. Sometimes you would question whether or not, well, is it ever okay to eat at a fast food restaurant? Is it ever okay to break whatever that one do and don't rule type thing is? So if instead you learn to think in terms of principles, then that gives a little bit more elasticity to your decision-making processes, and it helps you understand the foundational philosophy behind it instead of just being burdened really by too many laws, too many do's and don'ts. It's like being able to understand the spirit of it instead of being a slave to just a bunch of do's and don'ts. So here on our income and outgo principles, we teach that it's very important to prioritize. We teach that paying the Lord is really important. We do at Motivate, we are not a religious organization. We're not affiliated with one particular church or anything. And at the same time, we highly recommend moms that you get on it good with the Lord, that you find a religion that you can bring up your kids in, and that you give of yourself as well as expecting something from that religion. And part of that is a tithe or donating to a worthy cause. We also encourage you in this set of priorities to pay yourself, your future self. You can name her something funny like Wanda out there. That's your 80-year-old self. Does that sound like an old lady's name? Sorry to all the Wandas who aren't 80 yet, but that elderly self of yours needs you right now at the age you are at to be considering her and thinking ahead about her. And this, of course, relates to all the other people in your life too. Your husband needs you to have that long-term vision. Your children need you to have that long-term vision. They won't stay little, and they will come to you, and particularly they'll look at your example and have you been saving, and is it serving you in that later stage of life? And then, of course, spend wisely. And that leads into some of these other principles. Having self-discipline is hard to do. We watch our children sometimes. We call it, burning a hole in your pocket. As soon as they get money, they just want to go spend it. And they just haven't built up those muscles yet of self-discipline. There is a necessity sometimes to sacrifice things. And I think sacrifice is one of those difficult concepts, because so often we just look at the sacrifice part, the giving up of something. But what we really need to do, and what will help us through the pain, so to speak, of making the sacrifice, is to be able to see the long term that sacrifice will pay off, and that the reason it qualifies to be called a sacrifice isn't just in the giving up, but it's in the fact that we're giving up because we're going to get something better out of it later, and trusting that process, that sacrifice serves that purpose of getting something better later if we give up something now. And sometimes it's not necessarily a monetary thing. After we make a sacrifice, we don't necessarily end up with monetary betterness, but stability is, in this case, what we teach here at Mom of 8, and that peace of mind is priceless. We also encourage you to simplify. There's some pretty major movements towards minimalism right now, and that's such a funny thing to think about, that we live in such an abundant society that we have to teach minimalism, that it's, there just wasn't that situation in the past. I can't even imagine the kings and queens of yesteryear, from centuries ago, saying, well, we just have too much. I think that there was, even in their status as kings and queens, they weren't in the amount of abundance that we are right now. And so it's a funny time in history, right? To have to simplify, to have to choose not to have everything we can afford. But there is such a thing as enough, and embracing that concept joyfully, realizing that this is going to save us a few steps of having to declutter later if we don't even let the clutter in to begin with. And of course, it saves us money, right? That was something I realized when my family decided to quit the Happy Meal system that was going on. No more Happy Meal toys to step on in the middle of the night or feel bad about getting rid of and hoping the child doesn't notice. So we just decided that Happy Meals don't have to come from McDonald's, that we can have our own happiness without that. So anyways, proper perspective. This one used to be called something like money is not a god. And we changed that wording, but it teaches something in and of itself, to realize money cannot solve all of your problems like God can, or like we trust in God to be able to help us, at least with our problems. And money, sometimes we treat it like that kind of God. And we just think to ourselves, well, if I just had more money, then life would be better. And unfortunately, there's an awfully lot of more dynamics. And we probably know people personally who have plenty of money, but still have plenty of problems. We also could look no further than the grocery store aisle where we're waiting to check out, and there's all the tabloids of very wealthy, famous people who have a fair share of problems. So money is not going to solve all of our problems. We need to have proper perspective in understanding there's a wide variety of ways to solve problems that are not monetary based, and let's get creative with that. That's where one thing Motivate is trying to do is we're trying to create something called a Mom Unity app, and we would have mom units instead of money, and we would create kind of a bartering system among moms. So, and finally, one of these principles for income and outgo is to value all of the work necessary, whether or not it brings in an income like a paycheck. It is still work. And if we can value that and realize that it has other ways of paying off, when we choose to have a good attitude towards work, again, whether or not it's an employment type situation, or if it's just learning to work here in our homes. So thank you for attending this Smile Gathering. And for those of you watching on YouTube, thank you for getting to the end here and being willing to learn these principles of income and outgo. And ideally, what will happen as Motivate grows is there will be Motivators who learn those principles and are ready to share them in greater depth than what we're doing at the moment with these recordings. So we're going to go ahead and finish up this recording and this Smile Gathering with a big smile. Everybody's happy now, right? And we will look forward to gathering and smiling together again next week. Bye.